Black belt mocked. A black CEO for fun. Seconds later, the entire dojo fell silent. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. Go clean, that's all you do. His voice hit the mat before his words did. Sharp, loud meant to cut. The kind of command that doesn't train it humiliates. The room froze for half a second. Then came the low ripple of laughter, quick and nervous, the kind people hide behind. Naomi Brooks didn't move. She stood in the center of the dojo, red shirt against a sea of white gis, breathing steady. Her hands rested loosely at her sides, eyes fixed on the man who'd just barked at her like she was invisible. Derek Shaw, 34 black belt instructor and local legend, pointed at her with a smirk. If you're done stretching, rookie, maybe try keeping up with the adults this time. His tone dripped with something older than arrogance. It was the comfort of someone who never expected to be challenged by someone like her. No one spoke. Flags lined the walls, symbols of discipline, unity, respect. But in that moment, the dojo felt smaller, like the air itself had taken sides. Naomi blinked once, slow and deliberate. The sound of her own heartbeat filled the silence. This wasn't new. At 16, she'd been told the same thing in a gym across town. Go clean. Go soft. That's your lane. She'd left that day in tears. Today, she wasn't 16, and this wasn't his lane, it was hers. Still, she said nothing, just bowed lightly, a gesture too calm for how much heat sat under her skin. Derek turned to the group. Everyone take notes. Power's not about how loud you breathe, it's about knowing your limits. He grinned, satisfied, certain. Naomi's jaw tightened. Her silence wasn't submission, it was precision. The kind that waits, measures, then strikes when the room's too comfortable. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change and we're glad you're here. Now back to Naomi, because the next 10 seconds would turn that laughter into silence. Naomi Brooks wasn't a beginner. She just looked like one by choice. No flashy gear, no brand logo across her chest. Just that red t-shirt, and a calm that didn't need to prove itself. The dojo lights hummed above her, bright and sterile like judgment. Derek clapped his hands. All right, warm-up's over, let's see what the new recruits got. His grin returned, the kind that invited laughter and obedience all at once. Around him, a few students chuckled, stealing glances at Naomi as if she were an odd experiment that had wandered into their space. Naomi stepped forward, bowed properly, then took her stance. Centered, grounded, textbook perfect. Derek tilted his head. Interesting form, he said, tone dripping with mock praise. You learn that on YouTube. A couple of the students laughed again, too quick, too eager to stay on the instructor's good side. Inside, Naomi felt that familiar heat rise, the one she'd spent years mastering into stillness. At 24, she'd stood in a different room, an investors' meeting in Boston, when a man interrupted her mid-sentence to ask whose assistant she was. The silence that followed then felt just like this one, now heavy, invisible, but sharp enough to cut. Derek circled her once. Relax. This isn't corporate yoga. You can actually move here. He thought he was being clever. He thought she was harmless. Naomi adjusted her footing slightly, eyes locked on the mirror across the room. The reflection showed him grinning, confident, untouchable, and her still precise waiting. From the back, Miguel, the youngest in the class, lowered his phone, whispering to the woman beside him, "She's not new. Look at her stance." The woman whispered back, "Then why's she letting him talk like that?" Maybe Miguel said quietly, "Because she doesn't need to prove it yet." Derek stopped in front of Naomi again. "Okay, miss. Calm energy, let's test your balance." He motioned toward another student. "Ethan, spar with her. Light contact. I don't want to break the new girl." The words hung in the air like chalk dust. Naomi bowed once more. Understood. Her voice was steady, almost too composed. Derek smirked. "Good. Maybe we'll get through today without a cleanup." The class shifted into a loose circle. Feet shuffled. The air tightened. Somewhere deep inside, Naomi felt that slow, inevitable rhythm of injustice she'd come to recognize in every boardroom, every negotiation, every public space where someone mistook her silence for permission. This wasn't a sparring test. It was the beginning of a lesson, but not the one Derek thought he was teaching. Ethan stepped onto the mat, taller, broader, all muscle and bravado. The white belt around Naomi's waist looked almost fragile beside his black one. Derek folded his arms, pacing like a referee who'd already chosen his winner. Touch gloves, he ordered. Naomi extended her hand. Ethan barely brushed it, eyes darting to Derek for approval. Don't go easy, Derek said. She needs the full experience. The class chuckled an uneasy chorus. Naomi lowered her stance, eyes steady. Ethan lunged, first sloppy but strong. She sidestepped with a quiet precision, letting the air move between them like a blade. He stumbled surprised, but Derek clapped sarcastically. Not bad for a warm-up. Let's see if she can take a hit. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Ethan attacked again faster this time. A loud thud echoed as Naomi blocked, absorbed the impact, and pivoted away. Not flashy, not aggressive, just deliberate control. For a moment, the room fell quiet. Then Derek broke it. Come on, Ethan, don't be polite. She's not glass. Naomi looked at him, then really looked. Calm, unreadable, the kind of gaze that had frozen whole conference rooms before. She spoke softly. Control isn't weakness. Derek scoffed. In business, maybe. Not here. That word business lingered strange. None of them knew why it stung her differently. She said nothing, just reset her stance. Ethan hesitated now. Something in her posture told him this wasn't the fight he thought it was. From the sidelines, Miguel whispered to his neighbor, she's holding back. The woman frowned. Why, Miguel shook his head. She's studying him. Derek clapped again louder as if sound could keep authority alive. All right, last round. Let's show her how real martial artists finish. Ethan lunged once more, a sweeping kick meant to impress. Naomi pivoted low, redirecting his force. He stumbled, then she froze mid-motion, refusing to humiliate him. The control in her restraint was its own strike. But Derek saw only defiance. Stop the act, he barked. This isn't a dance class. His voice cracked through the dojo like a whip. Naomi's breath slowed. Every inhale a calculation, every exhale a reminder of who she was and what she'd built. She glanced at the flags above them, symbols of respect, humility, discipline, none of which were in Derek's tone. Then came the line that shifted everything. Enough with the soft talk, Derek said. People like you always break when it's real. The words landed heavier than any strike. Naomi didn't flinch. Her reply was quiet but carried across the room. Then you haven't met the right kind of real yet. The mat creaked beneath her feet as she turned to face him fully. And for the first time, Derek stopped smiling. No one spoke. The laughter from earlier had vanished, leaving behind a silence that hummed with tension. The hum of the overhead lights seemed louder now, every flicker amplified against the hush. Derek adjusted his belt, trying to reassert control. Let's reset, he said sharply. Apparently our guest thinks she's here to teach. He grinned again, but it didn't reach his eyes. The grin was armor now cracking at the edges. Naomi stood in the same spot, still as a pillar, grounded as if the mat itself had roots under her feet. She bowed once. You lead, she said simply. Her voice carried no challenge, only calm command. That tone, too measured, too confident, made Derek's pulse quicken. You're really pushing your luck. He looked around, needing witnesses, needing laughter again. None came. The class had gone quiet, eyes darting between them. Miguel's phone hovered low, half-hidden red light blinking. He wasn't filming for drama. He was filming for truth. Derek took a step forward, lowering his voice. You think just standing still makes you powerful? Naomi tilted her head. No, knowing when to stand still does. For a heartbeat, it felt like the air itself drew closer, as if the dojo were holding its breath. Ethan stepped back, uncomfortable. Sensei, maybe quiet, Derek snapped. The sound echoed off the walls. Naomi's eyes didn't move. You mistake silence for fear, she said softly. That's your weakness, not mine. The words slid through the room like glass. From the side, one of the female students murmured, she's right. Another hushed her, nervous, but the ripple had started, the kind that shifts a room before anyone realizes it's moved. Derek's hand twitched at his belt again, more reflex than discipline. All right then, he said, voice rising. If you're so calm, let's make it interesting. He pointed toward the center mat where the dojo crest gleamed under fluorescent light. You and me. A collective gasp followed. It wasn't custom. A head instructor challenging a guest wasn't just ego, it was humiliation, dressed as tradition. Naomi looked at the mat, then at him. Her expression didn't change. You want to spar, she said to prove, I don't belong. Derek folded his arms. Call it a lesson. She nodded once, a slow bow. Then, let's teach. The class shifted, forming a circle. Feet scraped against tatami, breaths turned shallow. Miguel's phone trembled in his hand. He whispered into the mic. She's about to show him what real balance looks like. Naomi stepped forward. The floor creaked softly beneath her weight like the world leaning in to listen. Derek took his stance jaw tight. For a fleeting moment, they stood mirrored, two figures framed by light and silence. Then the clock ticked once, and the room forgot to breathe. Derek lunged first, too fast, too loud, like someone trying to fill the silence with force. His foot struck the mat, sending a dull echo across the room. Naomi didn't move. She waited. Then, at the exact moment his fist cut through the air, she stepped aside, graceful as wind over glass. His momentum betrayed him, throwing his balance off by inches. Gasps rippled through the circle. Naomi raised a single hand. "Control," she said quietly. "That's the first lesson." Derek recovered, face flushed. "You think this is a classroom," he spat. "This is a fight." She smiled, not with arrogance, but with something deeper, colder. "Only for one of us." He swung again harder. She ducked, spun, redirected. The movement looked effortless, practiced, but never showy. When his shoulder brushed hers, she used the weight against him, letting him stumble forward. He caught himself on his palms, the sound sharp against the mat. The class exhaled as one. Naomi stepped back, unbothered. "You said I'd break when it's real," she said softly. "Now you know what real looks like." Miguel's camera shook. He whispered, "She's not fighting, she's dismantling." Derek stood, breath uneven. Pride and disbelief battled across his face. "You tricked us," he said. "You're not just some walk-in student." Naomi tilted her head. "Would that change how you treated me?" The question landed heavier than any strike. A few students lowered their eyes, suddenly aware of what they'd laughed at earlier. From the back, Ethan muttered, "She's better than all of us." Derek shot him a glare that silenced him instantly. Naomi adjusted her stance again, poised but non-threatening. "You still have a chance," she said. "To listen." "Don't talk to me like that," Derek snapped, voice cracking between anger and embarrassment. He stepped closer, too close, and jabbed a finger toward her chest. "You come into my dojo and make a fool out of me." Naomi didn't blink. "No, you did that yourself." The words cut clean. No emotion, just truth. The class murmured low, uncertain, shifting. Some whispered, "She's right," others, "He's done." Miguel whispered to the girl beside him, "If this goes viral, no one's coming to this dojo again." Derek heard it. The sound ignited something ugly. He turned to the group, shouting, "Put your phones away, no filming," but it was too late. Eyes were watching, not just from the mats, but from the reflections in the mirrors from every corner of the room. Naomi stood there calm as ever, like she'd been through this scene 100 times in 100 different rooms, and in a way she had. Because this wasn't about a fight, it was about how people behaved when they thought power belonged to them alone. And Derek was about to learn what it felt like to lose it. The room was holding its breath now. Every shuffle of a bare foot, every fabric whisper of a gi seemed amplified. The mirrors caught the whole thing from every angle, Derek's trembling jaw, Naomi's stillness, the student's confusion bleeding into shame. Naomi didn't have to speak to command the space. She just was. Derek tried again to seize control. "All right, fun's over," he said too loud, clapping his hands once. "Everyone line up. This experiment is finished." No one moved. Miguel's voice, soft but firm, broke the tension. "Sir, she won." Derek spun toward him. "What did you just say?" Miguel swallowed hard but didn't back down. "You asked her to prove herself." "She did." It was small, one voice in a room of many, but it cracked something open. A woman in the back. Hannah crossed her arms. "He's right," she said. "You kept pushing her. She never even hit you back." Ethan nodded beside her. "That's not losing, Sensei. That's control." Derek's face darkened, the kind of anger that hides fear. "Watch your tone," he barked. "You don't question your instructor." Naomi finally spoke calm but sharp. "You taught them that respect is obedience," she said. "But real respect goes both ways." The sentence landed like a strike. Miguel's phone, still half hidden, caught the moment, Derek's glare breaking. Naomi standing tall under the fluorescent light, her reflection split perfectly in the mirror behind her, a symbol of every room where she'd ever been. Underestimated. In the back, the receptionist peeked through the doorway, whispering to another staffer, "That's her, isn't it, the sponsor?" The other nodded slowly. "She's the one who funds the new program, Brooks Foundation." The words spread quietly, faster than anger could contain. Brooks. Derek heard it too. His eyes flicked toward Naomi, searching for denial, for anything that would make it untrue. "You're not." Naomi met his gaze. Not what he didn't finish. The silence stretched long and deep, swallowing the sound of his authority whole. Miguel lowered his phone now, no longer hiding. "Everyone saw it," he said quietly. "And everyone heard how you talked to her." Derek's throat tightened. "Delete that video." Miguel shook his head. It's already on the drive, not posted yet. But if you touch her, I will. Naomi's hand lifted slightly. You won't need to, she said. Justice doesn't need an audience. It just needs witnesses. She turned to the class. And now you all are. The students stood frozen, not out of fear but realization. The air had shifted again. The dojo wasn't Derek's anymore. It belonged to the truth sitting quietly in front of them. And Derek, for the first time, couldn't find a command that anyone was willing to follow. Derek's voice cracked the air again, louder this time, desperate to sound like control. Enough of this circus, everyone outclassed dismissed, but nobody moved. The silence wasn't obedience anymore. It was defiance wearing calm faces. Naomi stood motionless, her gaze steady as if she could see right through his performance. You can end the class, she said softly, but you can't end what they just learned. The line hit harder than a punch. Derek stepped closer, the heat of anger trembling through his voice. Who do you think you are? Naomi didn't answer. She didn't have to. Miguel spoke first, voice firmer now. She's the reason this dojo still exists. A few heads turned. Derek blinked. What did you say? Miguel swallowed. Brooks Foundation, your lease, your equipment, your funding, all hers. The revelation dropped like thunder. Students exchanged stunned glances. Hannah muttered. No way. That's her. Naomi didn't move an inch. I didn't come here as your boss, she said. I came here to see how you teach respect. Her eyes swept the room. Now I know. Derek's face flushed red, a mixture of embarrassment and panic. He forced a laugh that sounded hollow. You think money gives you authority on the mat? This is my dojo. Naomi nodded slowly. Then you won't mind when it becomes someone else's. The words were calm, surgical. Ethan took a step back. Sensei, he started, but Derek barked quiet. The command bounced off the walls, brittle and powerless. No one listened. Naomi's phone buzzed in her pocket, one soft vibration. She didn't even look. That's my assistant, she said, waiting for the call to confirm what you just admitted. Derek's confidence slipped a little more. You're bluffing. She tilted her head. Am I? Hannah whispered to the person beside her. She's activating something. Naomi took a slow step forward. The air seemed to tighten around her like gravity shifting. You said people like me break when it's real, she said. You're about to find out what real consequence feels like. For the first time, Derek took a step back. Miguel whispered, he's scared. Ethan replied quietly, he should be. Naomi's calm wasn't silence anymore, it was verdict. She turned slightly, glancing at the wall clock above the mirror. You have about 3 minutes before my internal compliance team arrives, she said evenly. They'll want to talk about workplace harassment and misuse of sponsorship funds. Derek froze. His jaw clenched, but the words wouldn't come. The student's eyes widened. Hannah covered her mouth, whispering, she's not bluffing. Naomi bowed politely, the gesture sharp and final. This is your last lesson, Mr. Shaw. He swallowed hard. And what's that? Naomi straightened. Respect isn't what you demand. It's what remains when your power's gone. The room fell completely still. Even the lights seemed to dim. And outside, faint but growing, came the sound of footsteps approaching the dojo door. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. 2 figures entered, both in black suits, calm, professional, holding tablets instead of weapons. The gold emblem on their lapels glinted under the dojo lights Brooks' corporate ethics division. Gasps rippled through the room. Miguel stepped back instinctively. Hannah covered her mouth. Ethan whispered, this is really happening. Derek straightened his back, trying to reclaim authority. You can't just walk into my dojo without notice, he barked. His voice cracked halfway through. The taller of the 2 agents, a woman named Maya Grant, met his eyes evenly. You're right, she said. Normally we'd schedule a meeting. But Miss Brooks authorized an immediate on-site compliance review. She tapped her tablet, time-stamped, logged. Naomi didn't move. She just looked at him. You wanted real, she said. This is real. Maya gestured toward Naomi. CEO of Brooks Global Athletics, primary investor in the North Line Dojo franchise program. Then to Derek, and you are... He hesitated. Derek Shaw, head instructor. Maya's tone was polite but surgical. Then you're also the subject of 3 internal complaints for verbal misconduct filed by trainees in the past quarter, none of which you addressed. The air turned to ice. Naomi's voice remained low, unhurried. I told my team to investigate the rumor that certain franchise dojos were turning respect into hierarchy. She took a step closer, her shadow touching his. Seems the rumor was true. Miguel's phone, still recording by reflex, caught Derek's face collapsing in real time, anger melting into disbelief. Derek stammered, This is a setup, Naomi tilted her head. No, Mr. Shaw, this is accountability. Behind her, Maya's colleague began photographing the facility, marking timestamps, collecting statements from the students. The dojo that once felt like Derek's kingdom now looked more like evidence. Hana spoke up first, voice trembling but clear. She didn't disrespect anyone. He did. We all saw it. Maya nodded, typing fast. Noted. Naomi looked around the circle of students. You all came here to learn discipline, didn't you? Her gaze softened slightly. Then learn this discipline isn't silence in the face of wrong. It's courage under control. No one dared speak. Derek took a step forward, desperate voice rising. You can't fire me on the spot. This isn't corporate America. This is martial arts. Naomi's expression didn't change. Discipline without dignity isn't martial art, it's theater. The line cut the room in half. Maya lowered her tablet. Ma'am, the documentation's ready for signature. Naomi nodded once. Proceed with termination. Effective immediately. Derek froze. You're not serious. Naomi met his eyes calm as stone. Serious enough to sign it here. Maya held out the tablet. Naomi's finger slid across the glass in one fluid motion, silent, final, irreversible. The sound that followed wasn't applause. It was deeper, like the exhale of justice itself. Derek looked around the dojo, realizing no one was standing with him anymore. The power he'd clung to had already left the room, and Naomi Brooks, silent, unshaken, hadn't raised her voice once. For a moment, Derek didn't move. His dojo felt smaller now, shrinking around him with every breath. The sound of Maya's tablet locking the file echoed louder than any shout he could muster. Naomi exhaled quietly, then turned to face the class. Her voice was calm, the kind of calm that came from knowing she didn't need to prove anything. You all deserve to know who I am, she began, not because it changes what happened, but because truth should never walk in disguise. She reached into her gym bag and pulled out a black lanyard, sleek, embossed with silver letters, CEO, Brooks Global Athletics. She held it up once, not for drama, but for clarity. Gasps moved through the students like a ripple. Miguel's camera caught the moment perfectly, the reflection of her badge gleaming against the mirror, Derek's face draining of color, and the stunned silence that followed. Ethan stepped forward, voice soft. You own this dojo. Naomi shook her head. No, I built it. From the ground up. Every mat, every belt, every scholarship student here was part of a vision to make martial arts accessible, not hierarchical. She looked at Derek. But somewhere along the way, that vision got lost in ego. Derek swallowed, hard eyes darting between her and the agents. You came here pretending to be a student to humiliate me. Naomi's gaze didn't waver. No. I came here to understand why complaints kept landing on my desk about this location. And now I do. The students murmured among themselves, guilt and admiration intertwining. Hana lowered her head. We all laughed, she whispered. Naomi caught it. You learned what he taught you, Naomi said gently, and now you're learning something new. Miguel took a cautious step forward, phone lowered. Miss Brooks, he said, do you want me to stop recording? Naomi paused. The whole room waited. No, she said finally, because this isn't about shame. It's about record. She turned back to Derek. You said earlier this was your dojo. Her tone was still calm, but each word landed like a drumbeat. Let me remind you what ownership really means. She motioned to Maya, who handed her a second tablet. Naomi tapped twice, and the dojo's digital signage on the wall flickered to life, the screen displaying property of Brooks Global Athletics Holdings. The silence that followed wasn't disbelief, it was revelation. Derek took one step back, then another. This can't be how it ends, he muttered. Naomi's eyes softened. Endings are what happen when you refuse to listen to warnings. Her voice dropped lower, quieter. And I gave you many. No one laughed now. No one even shifted. The only sound was the low hum of the ceiling lights and the faint whir of Miguel's camera capturing what history looked like when it wore calm instead of rage. Then Naomi said, for every room I was told I didn't belong in this one, just joined the list of places that now answer to me. The dojo stood frozen, every student realizing they hadn't just watched a sparring match. They'd witnessed a reckoning. Derek's body seemed to shrink beneath the fluorescent light. The black belt that once made him untouchable now hung heavy like proof of everything he'd misunderstood about power. His mouth opened, but no words came out, only the sound of someone realizing the echo of his own arrogance. Naomi didn't look triumphant. She looked finished. Calm, steady, complete. The way someone looks when they've already processed the injustice long before the crowd noticed it. Maya closed her tablet. "Mr. Shaw, your access credentials are now revoked," she said crisply. "You'll receive notice of your termination package and investigation summary via email." Derek blinked. "You can't do that." Maya's tone didn't shift. "We just did." The class watched as she tapped a final command on her screen. A soft beep sounded from Derek's wristband, the security tag every instructor wore. The tiny LED turned red. Access denied. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Naomi finally turned toward him. "You built your authority on fear," she said quietly. "I built mine on standards. The difference is mine doesn't vanish when someone stronger walks in." He shook his head, voice trembling. "You tricked me. You wanted to humiliate me in front of them." Naomi's eyes stayed steady. "No, Derek, you did that all by yourself." Her words hit with a precision that training couldn't teach. Behind them, Hannah exhaled, shakily whispering, "This feels unreal." Ethan nodded beside her. "It's not unreal. It's overdue." Miguel lowered his phone now, no longer needing to film. The truth had already written itself into the walls. Naomi looked around the dojo. "This space will stay open," she announced, "but it will reopen under new leadership, one that understands what these walls were built for: respect, not ranking." The students exchanged looks, some stunned, some relieved. Derek took a stumbling step backward. "You can't. This place is mine," Naomi finished for him, voice calm as ever. "And for the record, I didn't come here to take it from you. I came to give it back to its purpose." She walked toward the center mat, stopping under the hanging scroll that read discipline, integrity, honor. For the first time all afternoon, everyone's eyes followed her, not because she demanded it, but because she embodied it. She bowed deeply to the class. "I don't expect apologies," she said. "I expect better." Her voice softened. "And if you truly respect this art, you'll make sure no one else ever has to earn dignity twice." The words settled like dust after a storm, gentle but final. Derek stood frozen, a man stripped of both status and illusion. The title Sensei had never sounded emptier. Naomi turned to leave, the red of her shirt catching the light like a quiet flame. Outside, the sun had shifted lower, its reflection burning across the glass doors. And for everyone still inside, that glow felt less like daylight and more like judgment. The moment Naomi's footsteps reached the doorway, something in the air broke, like the dojo itself exhaled after hours of holding its breath. Behind her, the once unquestionable authority of Derek Shaw had collapsed into fragments. He stood alone on the mat, staring at the reflection of his own face in the mirror, a man who'd spent years teaching strength but had never learned humility. Miguel took a careful step forward, his voice quiet. "Ma'am," Naomi paused, turned halfway, eyes soft but unreadable. Miguel swallowed. "What happens to us, the students?" She regarded him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "You stay," she said. "This place isn't being erased, it's being rebuilt." Her words steadied the room. Hannah wiped her eyes. "You mean, we keep training?" Naomi nodded. "But this time you train under people who know that power starts with respect, not rank." She looked at Derek one last time. "And that starts today." Maya stepped forward, holding a printed form. "Per compliance directive, Mr. Shaw, your termination is effective immediately. Please surrender your badge and keys." Derek's hands trembled as he unclipped the black keycard from his belt. The plastic hit the mat with a faint, hollow tap. He looked up at Naomi, his voice small, brittle. "I gave my life to this place." Naomi's expression didn't harden, it softened. "Then it's a shame you forgot what life was for." He flinched more from truth than tone. She turned back to the group. "There's one last thing," she said. "Every student here who witnessed what happened today will receive full scholarship credit through the foundation. You'll finish your training properly." The shock in the room shifted to awe. Miguel blinked. "All of us," Naomi nodded. "All of you." For the first time that day, the silence wasn't heavy, it was reverent. Derek sank to his knees without meaning to. The mat beneath him no longer felt like home. It felt like the floor of his own undoing. Maya placed a folder beside him and stepped back, saying nothing. Naomi walked to the center once more. The scroll above her rippled slightly in the breeze from the vent. She bowed to it, the gesture as precise and sincere as her first. "I don't need to record justice," she said softly. "I live it." The students bowed back one by one until the whole room was aligned, not in hierarchy but in shared understanding. Derek lifted his head, tears barely visible under the harsh white light. "What do I do now?" he whispered. Naomi looked down at him, voice steady. "Start over. Learn again. Not to teach, but to listen." She turned to Maya. "Clear the dojo." Let them rest. As the agents gathered their materials and the students began to file out in silence, Naomi stood for a final moment beneath the banner of honor. The room no longer belonged to fear. It belonged to truth, and that she thought was the most powerful silence of all. The last student stepped out, leaving only Naomi, Maya, and the echo of what had just unfolded. The dojo was still. The air smelled faintly of tatami and humility. Outside, the late afternoon sun stretched long beams of gold across the mats, cutting the room into quiet halves, past and future. Naomi walked to the center mat once more. She placed her bare feet on the crest of the dojo logo, the same place Derek had stood barking orders just an hour ago. For a long moment, she said nothing. She just breathed. Maya approached softly. "It's done," she said. "Press coverage will pick it up once the compliance summary goes public." Naomi shook her head gently. "No press. Let the story live where it happened. They'll remember it longer that way." Maya nodded, understanding the deeper lesson. Some victories weren't meant for headlines, they were meant for reflection. Naomi looked toward the mirror, seeing her own reflection framed by the hanging banners of discipline, integrity, and honor. The same words that had watched Derek lose everything. The same words she'd built her empire on. She whispered to her reflection, not for anyone else to hear. "You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stand where silence can see you." Maya hesitated. "You want to lock the facility, ma'am?" Naomi smiled faintly. "Not yet." She knelt, straightened the edges of the fallen keycard Derek had dropped earlier, and set it neatly on the front counter. "Leave it here," she said. "A reminder of what happens when respect becomes optional." From outside, the muffled sound of students talking drifted in, soft, thoughtful. The kind of conversation born not from gossip, but from awakening. Naomi turned toward the door, pausing one last time to look around the room. This place had begun as an experiment, then a lesson, and now something more sacred. Proof that justice didn't need applause, it just needed presence. As she walked out, the door's glass caught her reflection one last time, red shirt glowing against the gold of sunset. Outside, Miguel stood waiting. "Miss Brooks," he said. "What should I tell people when they ask what happened here?" Naomi smiled, eyes calm. "Tell them respect showed up," she said, "and it didn't leave." He nodded, understanding more than he could say. Naomi stepped into the light, the street humming quietly around her. No cameras, no crowd, just stillness. Behind her, the dojo doors closed, slowly sealing the room in silence again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was cleaner, stronger, earned. And as Naomi Brooks walked away, the words she'd once lived by returned, soft, but certain dignity doesn't shout. It stands. The screen would have faded to black there, no music, no applause, just the sound of balance restored.